Hello, fellow crypto degens. I really need to talk about CBDCs and the danger they pose um, to individual freedom, right? I mean, they really would take away an extreme amount of freedom from us. If you think about it now in a society where we have cash, there can actually be an underground market. People can do transactions cash based without anybody else knowing. Whether you like that or not is up to you. To me, I want that personally. I'm a libertarian. I want freedom for everything. It should be a free for all for everything to an extent. You should have a moral compass to help guide you. That's just my personal perspective. Other people don't believe that way, but to each his own. But let's talk about what the CBDCs can potentially do to our freedom. To me, which is totally dismantle it. And the Federal Reserve is looking to start it in July here. I will do a little screen share so you guys can take a look here. So here we go. The FedNow coin, they're looking to launch it here in July of 2023. They've already started here in April. It's in a beta test right now at this point, but it's going to launch in July of 2023. So we will see what goes on with that. But it's something I am not real happy about. It's something I don't think we need. And let's talk a little bit about some history here with how it's already going with Nigeria has their own. And I'm going to get into what's going on in Nigeria. So they are a society that has 55% of their citizens that are unbanked. So they're really trying to push them in, and it's much harder than it is in the US. Most people are banked in the US. There's far less unbanked people. So for them, it's been a little bit different. And their CBDC launch has created issues for them because they have now rapid inflation, greater inflation than they've ever had in their history. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to financially incentivize people to use the CBDC. Whether it's giving them discounts when they're purchasing on something or giving them some extra, whether it's universal basic income, which I don't know if they do have anything like that. They might have some sort of welfare. From what I understand, they do have some welfare, and that's how they're sending payments. And I would assume that they would do the same thing here in the States when they create the CBDC. I think it'll transition from our current financial system based on banks, cash, to the new financial system, which would be the Federal Reserve, direct to citizens here. So you take out the banks as their intermediary. Now, just banks are going to still be around. They're going to still have their place. It's just they're going to have far less power. The central bank is going to have total control now. And of course, that's a fear that any of us should have, central bank controlling anything here. But let's talk a little bit about what it could cause, how they can control things. So what they can do, if you go back to Canada about a year ago when the truckers were protesting what the government was doing, and people were given funding their GoFundMe and their bank accounts were being seized. Well, that took an extra layer, an extra step for them to get to the banks. Now, if they control it directly, they can just cut you off right there, penalize you, stop you from being able to have any funds in your account to use for anything. So it just makes control for them much simpler, which would not be good. They can shut down anything. And in China, they're using it with the digital yuan. They have people out protest and they have facial recognition everywhere, and they're shutting down these people's wallets everywhere. So they can't even get on a train to go back home. You talk about total control. That's what these things allow. When you talk about economic control, that's total control over people. Because if you can't buy food, if you can't buy items you want, you are under complete control. You are under the thumb of the government, and they will dictate everything to you. You just don't want that. That's personal freedoms being wiped out. And we are very close to having that happen here in the States. And the CBDC is going to run side by side with the current system for a period of time. I would assume probably at least a year. It'll run side by side, if not longer. And in 2024, later, 2025, I imagine they'll just roll everything over to the FedNow coin. And there's ways for us to get around it. So those of us that are in cryptos, it's very simple for us to get around it, right? We have Bitcoin, or we have Litecoin, or Ethereum, or Digibyte, whatever we have, and we could utilize those for transactions. Bitcoin's getting easier and easier with the Lightning Network to do transactions on. So we're going to be able to do this more seamlessly, more easily, and we control those, right? There is no intermediary with Bitcoin. There is no third party. It's a trustless network. So we don't have to worry about any of those things. That's why I really like it a lot. And Bitcoin Cash, similarly, and Bitcoin Cash is used very easily for transactions because it's bigger blocks in the blockchain and much faster transactions, much less costly. Bitcoin will probably get there as well, but Bitcoin Cash is doing it right now. And I believe it's still the most transacted blockchain on Earth. But Litecoin also really quick, really inexpensive to use. And these cryptos are getting easier and easier to use for just purchasing everyday things. So you can get yourself, again, this is a way around the system. You can get yourself a debit card, and that debit card can be backed by crypto. So it'll convert to the dollar or the Fed coin at some point down the road when you're going to Dunkin' Donuts and getting yourself a coffee. I'm not going to use that other place. I don't like the other Starbucks place, but going to Dunkin' Donuts or some other coffee shop, you can use it for that. You'll be able to use it. You can use it currently for groceries. You can go to the grocery store with your debit card. It's a Visa, MasterCard, right? It's going to be used the same way. As long as you have those funds available, as long as you have enough crypto there in that account to take care of, transaction will go through. That's a workaround, a system. It's kind of cash when there is no cash available. That's going to be our new cash. Crypto is going to be our new cash. So that's the workaround in the system. And that's what I plan on using. Now let's talk about other ways to secure yourself and protect yourself. Email wise, Proton Mail, you want to use Proton Mail. That's going to help. That's a super secure email. But use that for your crypto transactions. Don't use that for everyday transaction stuff. Just simply use this for your cryptos. And you can use a Brave browser. The Brave browser is much more secure than the Chrome, Google Chrome, or any of these other Safari and these other browsers that are out there. Personal information is not sold like it is on a typical browser other than the Brave browser. And there'll be other ones that are going to come out, right? As Web3 continues to develop, you're going to have more and more that are going to be able to come about and be able to be utilized. So look for that in the future here. And let's get back to the truckers, though. Let's say the truckers in Canada a year ago. Let's say you donated to the GoFundMe, or even if, let's say, you donate to a church that they don't agree with, that the government doesn't agree with, they can then penalize you. In Canada, they did it really easily. In the States, it might be slightly harder, but I don't think at this point it's going to be much harder than what they did in Canada. Our rights have been eroded so quickly over the past decade plus, really since 2000, since 9/11. Our rights have just gone down the drain at the most rapid pace I've ever seen in my life. Our freedoms have just been washed away. So work around the system, have your own, use cryptos, minimal amount on that debit card, because that debit card is still at risk. They're still at risk for fraud, still at risk for a shutdown, because that's still with a centralized exchange, wherever you're going to have that with. It's not like it's in your cold storage wallet, like or hardware wallet, like the Trezor or Ledger. You want to hold the majority of your cryptos in that. That's the most secure. Nobody can get to it, right? That is the most secure off network. You want to do this stuff off network as much as possible, as things are changing rapidly. So how are they going to hook us and get us to use these CBDCs? Well, they're going to hook us by giving us discounts on items when you purchase using the FedNow coin, right? You might be able to buy something that's, say, $10, and you might only have to pay 9 for it. You get a discount using the Fed Now coin. They're going to utilize that. They're definitely going to do it for, let's call it with the Inflation Reduction Act, which really just means more inflation. When you pump more money in the system, you're going to get more inflation. So you're going to, they'll try to do it to hedge inflation, and they'll say inflation is running at 6.5%. They'll give you a 6.5% discount, maybe to use the Fed Now coin. They're just going to make it really easy for you to utilize them and do them and accept them. Maybe they start, they're probably going to start with welfare and those kind of things for people. And maybe there'll be universal basic income, UBI. I imagine it's coming soon. And I imagine a financial crisis is coming soon, which will allow them to more easily transition to the Fed Now coin. With what they're doing, I fully expect them to raise rates today, interest rates, short-term rates, the Federal Reserve. If they do that, it's going to be catastrophic to our economy. Think about the timing now. We're in May 3rd. They raise those rates. The economy really starts to tumble. Let's say it tumbles fairly quickly. And guess what? We're in July, when everything's hitting the fan, unemployment's going up, and they have this Fed Now coin, and they're ready with it, and they're ready to just come aboard with it. That's kind of their plan. They create and manufacture these crises. They're all fabricated by the Federal Reserve. Every crisis we've had economically since 1913 has been created by the Federal Reserve and will continue to be created as long as the Federal Reserve System is in place. They create the crises. They create the inflation, and which we shouldn't ever have to worry about inflation. We should be able to keep things fairly stable, but they want inflation because they make more money out of it that way. Let's go back to 1969. Most people don't realize this in the US, but there used to be $500 bills, $1,000 bills, and $10,000 bills. 1969, they got rid of them all, went down to the highest denomination being a $100 bill. So I never saw anything more than a $100 bill in my life, being born in 73. But people that have been around for a while saw the $500 bills, saw the $1,000 and $10,000 bills, and they claim they were doing this as the war on drugs, right? It's going to be harder for the cartel. Baloney. It's a bunch of garbage. That was the start of maybe trying to wean people from cash and make it just a little bit harder and more difficult to utilize cash. And we've been on that slow boil. If you go to, I might use this analogy more than once today, but that slow boil, the frog is in the water. It's just warm now, and then they turn it up and up, not more and more, and it just sits and doesn't move. That's us with cash, right? As they've made it harder and harder to do things with cash. It really went hardcore in COVID or in 2020 when a lot of places didn't want to accept cash, and they had to manufacture fake coin shortage, which there's no coin shortage, a bunch of baloney. But they're pushing us away, and they're continuing to push it more and more and more. They want to get to it because they can totally control and see every transaction you do, every different purchase you make. They'll know instantaneously what it was. So if you're somebody who buys a lot of cigarettes and alcohol and gambles a lot, they're going to know that. They could penalize you. They don't like what you're doing. They're just going to penalize you and withdraw some money. It makes it really easy for them to do that. So this is where the erosion of freedom really, really comes full tilt. And this is just not something we want. Definitely not something we want. What else did I want to hit on here? The cash will be eliminated. If we go to the eNaira, which is the Nigerian currency, they're slowly trying to get rid of cash. Being that 55% of people are unbanked in Nigeria, it's a much more difficult process for them to go cashless. So it's a period of time it's going to take. And they've had a lot of civil unrest because of this too. This has caused a lot of problems there. And we will have civil unrest here if we have an economic crash and they switch to this, and you're going to have people just not happy with it, right? There's a lot of people who are still unbanked. I mean, small percentage of people here, but there are people, and they are the lower income people, and they're more likely to riot and cause problems because they don't have enough money, enough food, and all those things. And they become desperate people riot. It's just simple, fact of life, unfortunately. So I could easily see them making it much more difficult to buy cryptos moving forward too, with the advent of the CBDC. Right now, you can utilize your credit card on some of the exchanges or your debit card. But with the Fed Now coin, they might make it, guess what? We don't even need to make a law on this. We just decided we're not allowing you to do transactions on Coinbase or Binance or Kraken or whatever else you use out there. for your exchange. And then how do you do it? How do you work around the system when it gets to that point when you can't buy more cryptos and the crypto market's riding up? But there are ways around it. You can sell different assets in exchange for Bitcoin or Litecoin or others, Ethereum, even if you wanted to. Ethereum is very costly to transact, so I wouldn't recommend doing that. Bitcoin, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, Digibyte going to be your inexpensive ones to transact. Down the road, XRP and some others as well. So this will be your workaround for it. So if you sell a property and let's say you're selling a piece of real estate and you don't want all that cash back, you don't want to come down the Fed Now coin. Let's say you decide work with the buyer to pay you in Bitcoin. There's always workaround. There's always a way around the system. So get paid in Bitcoin, push that Bitcoin, then you can turn that Bitcoin in other cryptos if you want through the DeFi space, decentralized finance space, where you could swap them. You could send them to an exchange. You could send them to a company like Caleb and Brown out in Australia, where they can convert them for you. They can also send cash back as you need it from it. So Caleb and Brown is an Australian firm, by the way, a very good firm. They're over the counter, so you don't have the same issues that you have in Binance and in Coinbase and Kraken and some of these others when the markets lock up, when it gets really volatile. You won't have that same thing happen with Caleb and Brown. It's going to be an easier transaction. Yeah, they charge a lot. However, you can actually get a discount. They normally charge 5% if you sign up under the Crypto DGen here through them. I'll put a link in here. You'll be able to get it at 3.5%. So it'll be a little bit of a discount, saves you 1.5%. But if the market's crashing, you have a sell order put in, instead of it crashing through it on Coinbase or Binance, it's going to go through on Caleb and Brown. So that extra 3.5%, well worth paying when your order goes through. Peace of mind that order is going to go through. Same with sell orders. When it goes up, as the market gets volatile and the market's going up, you want to have sell orders at certain price points. Probably best to set them up with Caleb or Brown as opposed to Binance and Coinbase and leave them on that exchange, centralized exchange. Yeah, there's sure to be some risk with Caleb or Brown, but they've been around for a while. They have not had any issues to date. We will see. There could be regulations. They are in Australia. You never know if they want to regulate them. But there is that risk. There's risk with anything, though. Understand that here. But there's huge risk with the CBDCs and what they can do and control our life and really make things very, very difficult for us. And unfortunately for the older generation who's not good with technology, cryptos isn't an option right now until they can put it in their bank account. And we're coming there. Bank of America and others are working on where they can actually custody cryptos. Fidelity's working on it for your retirement accounts where they can custody them for you. So it's coming. It's probably in the next couple of years, those things will be able to happen, and you're going to be able to have the transactions are just going to be a lot easier. Let's put it that way. There's going to end up being a lot easier. Let's see, what else can I hit on here? Here's another thing that's going to potentially happen. They're going to be making it more difficult for us to buy cryptos as individuals down the road here. You're going to end up having to have them whitelisted and owned corporately. So I'd recommend creating a decentralized autonomous organization, a DAO. And you can do an LLC, DAO LLC in Wyoming. I think there might be another state that's doing them. We're trying to get them set up right now, but you can at least do them in Wyoming right now. I do have one set up where I could purchase, buy, and sell my cryptos through that LLC. So that's a nice little benefit there for you. So look at that as a potential for the future, right? Create your own, prepare for it, just be ready for it. It's going to happen. You can create an LLC fairly quickly, fairly inexpensively, but make sure you use the right company to set that up for you. Capital restrictions. One of the things you really have to worry about with CBDCs, again, they can restrict what you buy and everything, but they can restrict what you withdraw. And they have put capital restrictions there to reduce their cash withdrawals and also have limits on how much they can transact in a day. And who wants limits on what they can do? If your money, if that's your funds that you have earned rightfully, you would be able to utilize them as you see fit, not as some other third party sees fit. This is why the cryptos are so important. Control is in your hands with the cryptos. Control is in the government's hands with the CBDCs. You just don't want that. We don't want to be reliant on the government to tell us what we can and can't do, what we can and can't buy. We want our own freedom. So again, just go over what and do some research on this. Look at what the eNaira, eNaira, that's the digital CBDC for Nigeria. Look at what's going on there. Look at some of the unrest and the issues that's caused, and just know that it's coming to a theater near you here once that's instituted in July. I'm not saying we're going to have unrest or anything like that during that time. It's going to take a period of time for that to happen. And they're going to have to put restrictions on, impose, and make things difficult. So where we will protest, hopefully peacefully protest. So look for the rates to probably be increased by quarter points today, which will cause more bank failures. Again, regional bank failures is what's going on. So you have the smaller banks who don't have as much cash on hand and have had more of the 30-year T-bonds at bad rates, and now they've been devalued tremendously coming about. So you have that issue happening. You have these big banks looking to try to buy these smaller regional banks at a discount. And when they go belly up, that's how they get them at discount. JP Morgan's we looked at to buy more up. Because look at the regional banks and what do they fund? A big part of their portfolio is commercial mortgages, and commercial mortgages in retail, in industrial, commercial mortgages, some residential. They don't really do residential. They don't do the big apartment complexes so much. They really do more industrial. They do more retail and office space. And what's getting hammered right now in the commercial space? Retail and office space. And that's going to continue to get worse and worse and worse as the future moves on here. All right, I'm going to stop sharing that there. As it gets worse, these banks are going to start going belly up. Here's your crisis created by the Federal Reserve, and the banks are going to be big banks will buy up all the small little banks for pennies on the dollar, and major unemployment is going to end up happening because of all this turmoil and fear of the banks. And guess who's there to be the savior now? The firefighter. After they lit the fire, the Federal Reserve lights the fire, and then they're there to pretend like they're putting it out, like they're the good guy. Yeah, they're the arsonist, looking to burn everything down and go from one financial system, the old one, to the new financial system. We will be heading that way. It is a blockchain-based system, blockchain-based CBDCs, blockchain is cryptocurrencies, all these things. Everything's going to end up being on a blockchain. NFTs, everything's going to be an NFT. Your cell phone is going to be an NFT. Your computer is going to be an NFT. Digital music already is NFTs. Artwork obviously is NFTs. Everything is going to become an NFT that you purchase. Your car will be an NFT. Real estate's working its way to NFTs, where the mortgage is recorded. Mortgage being an NFT is recorded on a blockchain as opposed to the way it's currently done. It's going to take 15 years for that to happen, maybe 20. Maybe quicker as technology gets quicker and quicker and quicker. We have AI eating up jobs, right? And how much more is that going to eat up jobs between now and the end of this year? We're already seeing it doing it. You can get rid of, eliminate journalists and just have AI write articles based on info. And it's probably more accurate and better than what the crappy journalists are putting out there. So that's where things are headed, guys. The CBDCs are not good, nothing but bad for us. Not avoid them. Okay. And one more point I did want to make. Take advantage of them. Take those incentives they give you, utilize them, use them for day-to-day stuff that you're buying, your car payment, your mortgage, paying any taxes, paying whatever you're paying, your normal stuff. Then when you want to buy, if you want to buy alcohol or these other things, try to utilize your crypto. So you're off the grid there. So they're looking at you because social credit score will eventually come. If they're looking at the social credit score, you're going to look better when you're not buying alcohol or tobacco products or gambling. Like I said, utilize your crypto stuff for that. Protect yourself. Put up a veil in front of yourselves and make you look better than maybe you actually are, but better to the government so that they don't impose restrictions on you and you look like a good citizen who's abiding by them and doing what they want, even though you're doing stuff kind of like with a cash society where you're doing stuff with cash they don't know about. And they will know about if you're using Bitcoin. Don't be wrong, because they can track that. I mean, at the wallet that you own, it is trackable. The only way they can is if you use a crypto called eNaira, which is completely traceless. So if you want to do some stuff like that, that you don't want anybody to know about, then you can use Monero for it. But I wouldn't use Bitcoin for that. But if you're just buying a 6-pack of beer, a case of beer, whatever, you can go ahead and use your Bitcoin and all those other ones. It's not that big of a deal. All right, guys, that's pretty much all I want to hit on today. I'm going to do a little bit more of these different things on CBDCs as we get closer here. And I'm also going to be doing deep dives into some of my favorite projects. First up will be Theta. Then I'll be getting into Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Cardano, XRP, XLM, Polkadot, Litecoin, and others. Many, many, many others. Persistence, which most people don't know about. But I'll be getting into these in the near future here. Look for more stuff coming up in the upcoming weeks. All right, guys, enjoy the rest of your day, and hopefully you got a lot out of this video. Thanks.